If you find yourself standing at the precipice of tomorrow, looking into the mist and realizing you cannot quite picture what is coming, do not despair. Do not mistake this quiet, empty horizon for a failure of your imagination. What you are experiencing is far more significant, far more profound than a simple lack of creative vision. You cannot picture this upcoming chapter of your existence for one simple, absolute reason. You have never been the version of yourself who is meant to live it. But you are about to be. This is a distinction that carries immense psychological weight, far more than it might appear on the surface. When your life changes incrementally, when it gets a tiny bit better, when an existing circumstance is marginally upgraded, or when a situation merely improves within its current framework, your mind has no trouble visualizing it in advance. It can easily construct a mental map of that future because it is nothing more than a linear continuation of what you already know. It is a predictable sequel to your past, using the exact same characters, settings, and rules. But when your entire life is on the verge of looking completely different, the mechanisms of mental projection break down entirely. Your imagination reaches out into the future, searching for familiar structures, only to fall short. The mind, programmed for survival through recognition, goes looking for some known reference point, some historical anchor to map this new reality onto, and it finds absolutely nothing. And this is where the great misunderstanding occurs. In that vast, silent space where your mind finds no data, you mistake that blankness for doubt. You tell yourself that because you cannot see the details, because you cannot touch the contours of tomorrow, it must mean that nothing is there, or that you are not ready. But it isn't doubt. It is the highly specific, sacred blankness of standing at the absolute edge of a life you have never lived yet. That is exactly where you are standing right now. What that blankness is whispering to you is not that your future is absent or delayed. It is telling you that what is coming is so genuinely unlike anything you have ever possessed before that your past cannot be used as its blueprint. A life that looks completely different cannot be imported from your old memories. It is a radical departure, a beautiful tabula rasa. We must also understand that a truly transformed life does not suddenly materialize from a single, cataclysmic event, no matter how monumental or dramatic that event might seem. External events are merely catalysts. A completely different life can only be sustained by a completely different person. Someone who is capable of receiving those events, meeting them with maturity, holding them with grace, and refusing to sabotage them back into the painful safety of the familiar. Human nature has a tragic tendency to retreat. When the unknown becomes too vast, we often choose to sabotage our own breakthroughs just to crawl back into the familiar. Why? Because the familiar, even when it was deeply painful, toxic, or suffocating, at least offered the pathetic comfort of being known. Your mind prefers a familiar hell to an unfamiliar heaven. But look closely at what you have actually been doing during this intensely difficult season you have just survived. You have not been wasting time. In the quiet crucible of your struggle, you have been becoming someone whom the familiar can no longer satisfy. You have been undergoing an involuntary upgrade of your soul's tolerance levels. Without even realizing it, you have been losing your tolerance for the very things that kept your life smaller than it was ever meant to be. You have lost your patience for the relationships that required you to continuously perform a watered-down, curated version of yourself just to keep others comfortable. You have lost your capacity to endure situations that rewarded your quiet compliance while completely ignoring your personal growth. Most importantly, you have begun to shed those automatic, self-limiting habits that had become so deeply grooved into your daily routine that you had actually stopped recognizing them as choices. All of these chains have been losing their grip on you. They fell away simply because you outgrew them. There is an immutable law of growth. A person who has genuinely outgrown their old life cannot be forced to remain in it, no matter how desperately that old life tries to stretch, bend, or accommodate them. The alignment is shattered. The energetic resonance is gone. And when the fit is gone, the old life must inevitably fall away to make room for what is next. When this completely different life finally arrives, it does not descend upon you like a sudden, chaotic storm. Instead, it manifests through a gentle, elegant succession of things landing precisely where they belong. It begins with a single conversation that subtly shifts your fundamental perspective. It continues with a decision that comes from a place deep within you that is infinitely quieter, steadier, and more certain than the place your decisions have been coming from. It looks like a door swinging open, a door through which you walk, not with a gasp of frantic relief that the wait is finally over, but with a deep, silent recognition that this is simply where you were always meant to go. You had already walked through that door in your spirit long before your physical feet ever crossed the threshold. The most shocking part of this transition is the overwhelming calm that accompanies it. We are conditioned by society to expect that a breakthrough must feel loud, euphoric, and filled with dramatic fireworks. But when a life truly fits, it feels less like a wild celebration and much more like coming home to a sanctuary you have never visited before. It is a profound, somatic settling. It is the moment when your physical body, your daily external life, and the evolved person you have fought so hard to become finally occupy the exact same space at the exact same moment. For the first time in your existence, there is no painful gap between them. There is no exhausting, performative bridge required to connect who you are on the inside with where you are forced to stand on the outside. This sacred settling is what is coming for you. It is not a life that is designed to be louder, flashier, or more impressive to brag about to strangers. It is simply a life that fits you. It is a life designed around the true contours of your soul. You have spent this entire agonizing season, quietly and without full awareness, being sculpted into the exact shape that this new life requires to rest upon. So, before you step forward into this next chapter, let us cement this truth into the fabric of your reality. Do not treat this as a passing thought. Declare it. Say it to yourself. Write it down. Put it into the atmosphere. My life is about to look completely different. Do not say these words as a desperate wish whispered into the dark. Speak them as a sovereign declaration of a truth you already possess. Know this with that quiet, unverifiable, yet completely reliable internal knowing. The life you have been waiting for is not a distant, unreachable mirage waiting for you in some vague future. It is actively landing right now, this very month, crystallizing within the ordinary, unassuming moments of your everyday existence. Your ordinary days are about to become extraordinary. Not by becoming louder or more chaotic, but by finally, beautifully, becoming true. If you know someone who has been waiting in the dark for longer than seems fair, share this truth with them. Let them know that their long, silent waiting was not a void, it was a production. The weight of their wait was busy producing something of infinite value. And what it produced is the exact person whom this incoming future needs to find. Your life is not going to get marginally better. It is not going to improve in those safe, tiny, superficial ways that allow you to keep most of the same structures in place. It is going to look completely, beautifully, and structurally different. It will be different enough that the person you are right now, still carrying the heavy residue of yesterday, would struggle to fully comprehend its beauty. And that is exactly how it is supposed to be. Because the life that is arriving was never built for the person you used to be. It was custom built for the magnificent person you are actively becoming. So keep going. Take a deep breath, step into the silence, and watch how beautifully your new world unfolds.